I remember that evening as vividly as if it happened yesterday. Not because of what she wore. Maybe it was a pale blouse she loved, or maybe something ordinary. What stuck with me wasn't fabric or color, but the words that slipped so effortlessly from her lips, words sharp enough to split the foundation I thought our life was built on. She was spooning rice onto her plate when she said it, almost casually. I'm going on a short trip with Daniel. Daniel, the man who had been her past, the ghost always circling the edges of our present. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. For a few seconds, the only sound in the room was the clock on the wall, ticking with cruel precision, as though it wanted to highlight the moment my heart began to pound like a war drum. She glanced up, caught my expression, and frowned. What? She asked, as though I were the strange one. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat threatening to choke me. Say that again. You heard me. It's just a trip. He invited me, and we're still friends. Don't you trust me? Still friends. The phrase hit like a blade between my ribs. I'd always known Daniel hovered like a shadow, but to travel with him, to step out of our marriage for a getaway with a man who once held her heart? I steadied my voice, though every muscle in me tensed like steel wires. Over my dead body. Her brows shot up, as if she never expected defiance from me. Maybe she thought I'd fold, the way I usually did after arguments. But something cracked inside me that night, something I didn't know had been under pressure for years. 6 years of marriage had blurred my vision. Love, blind and forgiving, had made me ignore the little warning signs. The late-night texts she swore came from colleagues, the sudden obsession with her appearance before certain outings, the way her phone always seemed to lock itself the moment I walked into the room. I had told myself suspicion was poison, that trust mattered more. I'd convinced myself what we had was unshakable. But trust is glass. It doesn't shatter with a hammer alone. Sometimes all it takes is a whisper. And her trip with Daniel was not a whisper. It was thunder. She folded her arms across her chest, cold and dismissive. You're overreacting. We're adults. You can't tell me who I can spend time with. I stared at her, searching her face for a reason, for an anchor, for anything that might explain why. My voice came out quiet, almost fragile. Why him? Her eyes darted away. Because he understands me. We've stayed close. The words hollowed me out. Weren't I the one who was supposed to understand her? The man who shared her mornings, her fears, her laughter, her bed? Are you sleeping with him? The question slid out, calm, though my hands trembled under the table. She hesitated. Just long enough. Then she shook her head. No, of course not. But the hesitation was louder than any denial. I didn't argue that night. I didn't raise my voice or throw accusations. Instead, I watched, and the weeks that followed only confirmed what I already knew. She grew more guarded with her phone, as if it carried national secrets. She worked late, but never looked drained. And one evening I caught her whispering into the receiver, her tone soft, tender, the kind reserved for lovers, not co-workers. The phone records were the final nail. His number was everywhere, threaded through her days and nights like a stain that couldn't be scrubbed out. So I waited. Patience, I learned, was a weapon. Betrayal doesn't just wound you, it teaches you how to prepare. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. She came home radiant, glowing in a way she hadn't around me in months. She dropped her purse on the couch and twirled as though the world had handed her joy on a silver plate. What's got you so happy? I asked, my voice colder than I meant. She hesitated, then said the name I dreaded. Daniel. Something in me snapped. So that's it. You didn't even care how I felt. Her smile disappeared, replaced by steel. You don't own me. I'm allowed to have friends. Friends don't book secret getaways together, I shot back. You're jealous. Controlling. It's ugly, she snapped. And just like that, something inside me died. I'm done, I said flatly. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? You want Daniel? Fine, but you won't have me, too. That night, I moved into the guest room. She tried twisting it, calling me paranoid, dramatic, accusing me of throwing away years of love over nothing. But her every word only pushed me further away. By morning, I had called a lawyer. She broke then. Begged, cried, swore it wasn't physical. But the hesitation, the whispers, the glow after seeing him, they had already told me the truth. And in my silence, I knew. She had left me long before I ever left her. 2 weeks later, proof landed in my hands like a verdict. A mutual friend slid a thick manila envelope across the table at a small cafe. I didn't want to open it, but I knew what lived inside. My fingers trembled as I pulled the photos free. Each page was another wound, her hand tangled with his, their lips pressed together, the two of them checking into a hotel like teenagers sneaking away for forbidden pleasure. I felt my stomach drop, my chest tighten. My friend said nothing, just gave a heavy sigh and muttered, "I thought you should know." That night, I confronted her. The moment I laid the photos on the kitchen counter, the lies crumbled. She broke into sobs, clinging to me like a drowning woman. "It was a mistake," she wept. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I love you. I only love you." But I pulled away. My voice came out colder than I thought possible. "No, you don't love me. You love the security I gave you, the roof, the safety. If you truly loved me, you wouldn't have needed him." The divorce that followed was messy, like they always are. She fought tooth and nail over money, property, the house we had built together. But I no longer cared about things. What haunted me wasn't what I would lose in court. It was what I had already lost in silence. Years of my life, nights spent believing I was enough, the blind devotion I poured into someone who had already checked out. The last time I saw her was in a courthouse hallway. She looked smaller than I remembered, diminished, her shoulders curved inward as if the weight of her choices finally pressed down. Her eyes were red, her lips trembling. "Can't we fix this?" she whispered. I studied her, the woman I once thought I'd grow old beside. For years I had believed her smile was my compass, her presence my anchor. But now, staring at her fragile frame, I realized something brutal and simple. Our marriage had ended the night she told me she'd travel with Daniel. Everything after that was just the slow collapse, smoke and ashes clinging to what once was. "No," I said softly, "we can't." And I walked away. A year has passed since then. Some nights I still wake with the phantom memory of her beside me, my hand reaching for someone who isn't there. Some mornings the silence in the house feels heavy, like a fog that takes time to clear. Betrayal doesn't just end a marriage, it carves scars deep into the soul. But slowly I've begun to heal. I've learned that healing isn't forgetting. It's standing again, even with the cracks. It's learning that the silence doesn't mean emptiness, but peace. And when I think back to that first night, the dinner, the ticking clock, the quiet shock that froze me, I remember the words that slipped from my mouth, words spoken not in rage but with calm, deadly finality. "Over my dead body." At the time, they were resistance, a desperate line I drew in the sand. Now I see them differently. They weren't just defiance. They were the first step toward my freedom.